think it's thumbs. Oh, you hit the. There he goes. Ah, don't do thumbs up. We're in great shape.
This is gonna be the best meeting ever.
All right. Good evening, board members and residents. I'd like to call to order our regular board meeting for Monday, September 23rd, 2024. I'd ask that everyone present please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Witt, will you please take the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Backins.
Here.
Mr. Brado.
Here.
Mr. Olgiati.
Here.
Mrs. Rose.
Here.
Mr. Tominello.
Here.
Mr. Witt. Here. Mr. Verkutz.
Here. All right, next on our agenda is the approval of the consent agenda, including the approval of the regular board meeting minutes from September 9th, 2024, amendment of the 2024 annual meeting calendar, approval in the bills in the amount of $1,185,828.36, approval of the August 2024 revenue and expenditure report, VCS employee scheduling software renewal, and Zoll warranty service contract renewal for the heart monitors. So unless there's any revisions or questions, I'd look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
Is there support? Support. A motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mr. Olgiati. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next is the approval of the regular agenda. Board members, we did discuss and propose an addition of E5, which would be to advertise an interview for the senior activity coordinator position. So unless there's anything else, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the regular agenda with the addition of E5.
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there support? Support. We got a motion by Mrs. Rose with support by Mr. Brado. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next, supervisor announcements and any other announcements the board may have. We're excited to announce that the improvements to Waterfront Park have begun. It's about $1.3 million worth of work at Waterfront Park. The mural on the bathhouse is complete. More improvements are taking shape daily. They've got a crane in place. They're constructing the fishing pier. And our building official is working on improvements to the bathhouse that should come to a future meeting. It's important to note that the park will be closed during construction. You can watch our social media and our township website for updates and progress on the work at the park. Hallowpalooza 2024 will be here before you know it. Saturday, October 19th is the date. Please visit the township website to sign up to host a table or to register to trick or treat. Another save the date, the Veterans Memorial Program will be Saturday, November 9th at 1 p.m. right here at Rosso Hall. Please see the township website for more details and contact information. And as always, for more information on these, as well as all other township events, you can call the supervisor's office, 586-466-1445. Visit our website, www.harrisontownshipmi.gov, or follow us on X at HarrisonTWPMI. Any other announcements?
A question. Thought I saw something about a state of the township.
Oh, yeah, there's that.
When is that coming?
Yeah, so I wish never, but October 18th, Friday, October 18th at Gino Surf.
Okay. And that's an AM, like a breakfast? Or?
It is a lunch.
Oh, a lunch.
Yeah, because I figured after 14 years I can decide that I can call it a lunch instead of a breakfast.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me.
Yeah.
My least favorite day of the year.
The time on that, Ken, is?
Noon. Yep.
Mr. Supervisor, I do have one announcement.
Okay.
Just want to let the residents know that I've been working with WOW for about the last 6 months. The public address system, the PEG channel, has not been playing on WOW. It went through several layers of management at WOW. They kept throwing everything back that it was our issue. I finally had the Advanced Lighting and Sound come out, check out our equipment. Actually, it was last week. They found out that there was actually a broken fiber wire between our campus and Roseville, where the home WOW office resides. So it was a WOW issue. So those of you who are hearing me tonight, Channel 10 on WOW is back on the air.
Excellent. Good job.
And just a quick elections announcement. Reminder, we have our absentee ballots going out on Thursday this week. So if you requested that, you should see it in the mail coming up shortly. And then we have our early voting starting on October 26th through November the 3rd here in the Russell Hall Boardroom from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day. And then, of course, the election is on November the 5th. The regular polls are open from 7 a.m. until 8 o'clock p.m.
All right. And I will share with the board that I was recently at an event with another Macomb County municipal clerk, and they were saying how often they consult with our clerk and how helpful Adam has been in another municipality, and they couldn't say enough about how much of a resource Mr. Witt is. So we're very fortunate here in Harrison Township to have an excellent clerk. So thank you for your work on the election.
We have the best one.
That's true, but
Who's the president of the
That's right. Yes. Not only a
Now
president,
I
but
turn a
also
weird
member.
shade of red from, humbleness.
Yeah, all right, well, good. So any other announcements? Hearing none, we'll move forward to item D1 from the fire department regarding the hiring of a probationary firefighter. We're fortunate to have our Chief Bostater here to guide us through that. Chief?
Good evening, everyone. So I'm requesting that you go ahead and hire Derek little to no experience. However, he has blue collar qualifications. Young man is very motivated to do himself really well. He will be a really nice asset for our department. He would be a 27th hire in succession. And currently resides in Clinton Township. He's eager to get started and excited to get the opportunity. You know, in our experience, when we have people that come to us with limited experience in their dream, it gives us an opportunity to go ahead and mold them. So, you know, employee comes in and we do our own little mini Harrison Township Fire Department Fire Academy, basically. We make sure that they are doing things in a proper manner. So we do 40 hours a week for up to 4 weeks, and then at that time we place them on shift work and place them on a platoon, and they have the opportunity to really have a seamless transition. It also gives them the opportunity to work with every person in the department, so if there's nobody that they haven't had contact with, our 3 training lieutenants train them, and they do a fantastic job. Like I said, our 9 officers right now, you know, from local 1737, they're the best that we've ever had, and we're firing on all cylinders. Everybody has a lot of initiative. They're excited about their training. They bring a lot of enthusiasm, and we have gone to the next level in their services.
Excellent. Any questions, discussion, or is there a motion?
Motion to approve to hire Mr. Batch Elder as a probationary firefighter and paramedic.
All right, pending.
Pending his psychological examination, background investigation, and physical exam.
Excellent, yep. With support. Got a motion by Mr. Witt with support by Mr. Tominello. Discussion?
The 27th, that doesn't include the, I guess, the apprentice?
That includes leave of absent employees.
So we have a 28th, right, so this guy won't count towards staffing. Within approximately a month after his official hire date, he would count towards staffing. We do have one firefighter on an extended disability. So obviously, in that situation, they're not receiving any benefits or pay or anything like that. So this would put us at 27 for staffing.
But we also, is that,
So we haven't worked out all of the finite language yet on the letter of agreement.
okay, that's what, okay.
So there is potentially, we believe, a 28th candidate.
But they weren't gonna count in the number until they are,
Till they meet
Meet
all,
all
get
the
past everything, go through the probation.
So 27 is with our leave of absence employees.
Correct. So we would be talking about 28 total, one on an extended disability. And we do have at least one firefighter that comes to mind that is been eligible for retirement for a number of time, and so if we were to bring on that, for lack of a better word, apprentice, we would be at 28 once they meet all the qualifications. So we'd be kind of a little bit, I don't want to say overstaffed, because certainly some members of the group think we should be at 30, but we would be staffed one more than we have historically been, which, you know, can help with overtime issues, things like that, if everything falls into place. But right now, I don't think we've still executed that LOA.
We have not, so
Oh.
we're just waiting from Ryan to finalize the language and then 1737.
Yeah, we did have a meeting last week and hammered out all the issues. I think very successful meeting, but still finalizing the language, putting everything in place, so. But this would get us within a reasonable period of time to 27 staffing, 3 platoons of 9. Any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, we've got a motion by Mr. Witt with support by Mr. Tominello. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Next on the agenda, item D2, regarding firefighter gear grant and purchase.
So we wrote a grant back in May of this year to the state of Michigan that allocated funds to replace gear. A lot of the fire departments were kind of behind as far as purchasing gear. They allocated these funds. You had to apply for the grant. We put in, at that time, we had staffing of 25 in suppression, and you could apply for however many members you had in fire suppression. So we had 25 sets at $3,500 a set, so $3,000 for coats and pants and $500 for boots. So we wrote it for 25. We received the grant for $87,500, which was, you know, fantastic, and we're really happy about that. We're buying the same gear that we currently have. Everybody's really happy with it, and the same boots. So we were able to get everything within that except for the boots. They were a little bit more expensive. However, it's well worth the value. You've got to be comfortable in your boots, and they are top notch. So little upcharge there. So out of pocket, we would be looking at spending like an additional $3,600 when you figure shipping and handling. So obviously we don't pay any tax on it, so that's why we have a request for $91,000. The grant is for $87,500.
So just to make sure, when you mentioned 36, the 91 would give us 35. So do we need to pad that a little bit based on shipping?
I already padded it. It's
So-
built in.
So the 30, so there's 3,500 of
Correct.
cushion.
Yes.
That's good. Okay,
Yep.
good.
Yep.
So we've got good news is we need to accept the grant, and then the total purchase that we're looking at is going to be slightly more than what the grant comes in at. So there's a recommended motion. Discussion, questions, board members, or is there a motion?
Motion to accept the grant from Michigan Department of Labor and Economic Opportunity and to authorize the purchase of firefighting gear at a cost of $91,000.
Okay, for support.
Support.
Got a motion by Mr. Witt with support by Mr. Brado. Certainly thanks to Chief Bostater and his staff for being on top of this grant and getting us, some help in covering gear. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next on our agenda, item E1 from the Supervisor's Office regarding Save the Manatee. Mrs. Leslie Argieri and Mr. Brian McDonald are long-term residents of Harrison Township. They have also raised funds for many years to save manatees. This Saturday, September 28th, is the 21st and final Save the Manatee 5K being held once again at Lake St. Clair Metro Park. Together, they have raised over $400,000 to save manatees and the habitat in which they live. I did prepare a resolution of support and appreciation for the efforts. I recommend the adoption of the resolution of support for the 21st annual Save the Manatee race.
I'll make a motion to adopt the resolution of support for the 21st annual Save the Manatee Race.
All right, is there support? Support. All right, got a motion by Mrs. Rose with support by Mr. Olgiati. Any discussion on the motion?
Elaine, was she an exceptional fundraiser for this? She was a fantastic science teacher at high school.
Yes.
I was a little scared of her, but I learned a lot.
And it's
so.
funny you say that. My daughter had her as a freshman, and when she was in college, she said that Mrs. Arjuri had taught her study skills and discipline that made a difference throughout her entire career. So, both excellent, excellent citizens. Any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, Mr. Witt, will you please take the roll call?
Yes, Mrs. Rose?
Yes.
Mr. Olgiati?
Yes.
Mr. Backen?
Yes.
Mr. Brado?
Yes.
Mr. Tominello?
Yes.
Mr. Witt? Yes. Mr. Burkett?
Yes. Thank you, Board. Next is item E2 regarding the Macomb County Sheriff's Office contract. Board members, the Macomb County Sheriff's Office provides our law enforcement and emergency dispatch services. Each current contract is set to expire on December 31st of this year. The Sheriff's Office has proposed new 3-year agreements for these services, similar to the current agreements. The Sheriff's Office has also proposed the addition of a command officer. Specifically, it would be a sergeant on the day shift. This officer would act as the leader of the unit, not unlike, and I hesitate to use this term, but not unlike a police chief in other communities. All of our peer communities that contract with the Sheriff's Office either currently have a command officer or are adding one in their newest upcoming contract. Attached in the board packet are the proposed agreements, notes from the Sheriff's Office regarding the command officer and the responsibilities, and a cost analysis which shows the cost breakdown as well as the current and projected revenues. Our 2025 revenue will completely cover the cost to add the command officer along with the current officers that we contract. My recommendation would be that we authorize the supervisor to execute these 3-year agreements with the addition of a command officer. It's important to understand the contracts as proposed are for the 14.5 deputies that we currently contract for. So presumably if this board authorizes the addition of a supervisory role, there will be new contracts that would come, but I did include all of those costs so the board understands what the cost of it. It's an additional officer, which is a little slightly higher cost, and that officer would get a vehicle. So there's a cost in the contract for that vehicle. So questions, discussion, a motion. And I'll say, we do have Commander Abro here, who is the person that we worked with to prepare this contract, and he's here to answer any questions the board has. We wish he can tell you about it or answer questions you have, or if there's no questions and there's a motion, we can do that too.
Make a motion to,
I'm sorry, Mr. Sparrow, just on page number 73, I don't know if it's a big deal, it doesn't look like it's part of the contract, but it's just a typo on years, it says, cover the services for the years of 2023 and 2027. I just want to make note of that.
Yep, absolutely. I did see that. Just to probably, and good or bad, the fact is we have a long-term relationship with the Sheriff's Office. And so, we're the victim of copy and paste documents. We all do it. And this is probably, someone just took last.
I didn't think it was an issue, but
No.
I just want to bring it up.
Understood. Yep.
make a motion to authorize the supervisor to execute 3-year agreement in addition.
For support.
With a question.
Yep, with Mr. Badkins. Oh, yeah, well, now we got a motion with support. Discussion.
We had approved the school liaison. I thought that was a duration. Was it worded to follow the contract?
It turned out this time.
Yeah. So this contract we're proposing reflects the renewal of that same 50% relationship.
Okay.
Um,
I didn't know because I thought we voted on it separately.
Yeah, so we renewed, so the last time we renewed the contract was 3 years ago. And sometime between that time and today was the time that the school, Lance Cruz made a decision based on retirements and other factors to go from an employee to an actual officer in the schools. So they deployed an officer at High School North and for the North schools, and Macomb Township pays 50% of that. We brought that to us, but it was, in other words, it wasn't for 3 years, it was until the end of this contract.
The modification of our
Correct.
And that was 9 months in the school and 3 months
in the township?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's a lot more than that, but but correct. Yep. During the school, those days in which the school isn't in session, could be Christmas and New Year, whatever that is, right? There's that individual serves. So I wanted to make sure Commander Abro was here in case there were questions, concerns about the contract, questions about the level of service, about the supervisory role. So if there are any questions, board members, let me know. If not, we'd call for.
Yeah, I was going to ask about the school liaison. Can you talk about that role a little bit, just so our residents understand what we're paying for?
Yeah, I mean, just today, I think I was texted.
And you know what? I don't know if that microphone.
Oh,
is good
sorry.
there.
Well, first, I just want to say, before I get started, thanks for having me tonight, Mr. Supervisor, Township Board. I have to say that since I started at the Sheriff's Office 20-plus years ago, we've had a phenomenal relationship with the township and with you as the board. So I thank you for being a part of us. And I thank the men and women that the job that they provide here for the township and the residents. The SRO position, as you can see across, it's sad to reflect back on some of the school shootings, but as they continued and as they occurred, you can see that schools across Michigan, across the country, have now started putting police officers within the school districts. The difference between a security officer or an employee of the school is the officers are equipped with, firearms. They're equipped with protection gear. They're equipped with 800 megahertz radios, where the security officer has to go to a phone to call 911. These officers can immediately call for assistance. Just today, I think there was an incident here at the school that the SRO and detectives have spent hours on investigating. The plus for the SRO is that when it's embedded in the school, they act as a friend, a counselor with these students. They see these students at football games, at basketball games. It's the interaction, and sometimes you'll get a lot of the students that they'll approach the officers with sensitive subjects. Also, what the SRO does is it works different programs that we offer. We have like an inside view type program where we offer these kids to come to the sheriff's office, and we embed them in with us, and we kind of show them law enforcement and some other issues. So on a situation like today, what would have happened is, say you had two patrol officers today that were patrolling the township. We would pull those officers from the residents of the town from patrol and say that you need to go work this investigation over at the school. So the assistance of the SRO is you're embedding the officer within the school. That SRO investigates the complaint from start to finish, works with our investigators, and there's no need to ever pull our road patrol from the citizens here of the township. Huge asset. And it's happening all across the country, as you can see, with the different types of school shootings that are occurring.
Any other questions?
I guess I have just a question, similar to our fire department with the mutual aid. I know that Macomb County Sheriff's Department also patrols Mount Clemens. Are we providing that same thing for if we've got to jump in car windows going down the street? And I understand a couple of our sheriffs were playing road rally, but do we provide services to in other words, do our deputies leave the township to provide mutual aid for other municipalities?
Sure, and so we are the sheriff's office, and we are, this happens in our north end, it happens in the south end, whether it's Washington, Macomb. Yes, there's mutual aid. So if there's someone that's having a heart attack and the closest car is a Mount Clemens vehicle that's that's a mile away from Harrison Township and the township vehicles are somewhere else, yes, then that car is going to get pulled. If it's an emergency type situation, and it happens in the fire departments as well, is that when one department needs assistance, they call the department for help. And that happens vice versa. Where Harrison helps Mount Clemens helps Harrison. It happens in our north end where Macomb helps Washington helps Macomb, and so on. So, yes, we're lucky to do that. But with the contract, there are so many benefits that come with the contract of contracting just the 14 deputies. For example, when you contract 14 deputies, you're getting a drug team that comes with the 14 deputies. You're getting evidence technicians. You get polygraph operator. That means if an operator was ever needed as far as a crime that occurred here in the township, you get fire investigators at any time that the fire department asks for assistance on an arson. You get crash investigations, youth services, our computer crimes, a SWAT team, crisis negotiators, our auto theft unit, K-9 units whenever needed, our traffic division, a drone team, dive team. We have a mobile field force and over 200 reserves. So with the contract with the 14 officers that you're paying for, you get all these additional services that come with it. So yes, there is mutual aid. I mean, sometimes we will assist one city or town, but it all works out.
And the reason I was sort of a loaded question is I've seen more than 4 or 5 Harrison Township police cars heading to the beach at a high rate of speed. My
Sure.
point was to say that I understand that it probably happens, but we benefit more than.
Absolutely. Yeah, and let's not forget the Marine Division. I mean,
Right.
you know, that isn't a part of this contract, but I mean, there is a presence here in Harrison Township, and, you know, we are boat town. You know, the reality is that the residents of Harrison Township, I truly believe, benefit from this contract, not only in terms of the police services, those additional services you described, but also the fact that our millage rate to provide police services is pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
So I do think this is, and I think, you know, I think there was a time we were at 10 officers maybe, we went to 14. Now we're talking about, fortunately, just based on contracts and, you know, the way the taxable value has evolved, we're able to add this command officer for no additional change in the millage. And I do think that's the right next step, to have somebody who's that person, man or woman, who's overseeing the department and, you know, coordinating these things on that level. And I think it's a cool opportunity for an officer to see, you know, to grow in their career, but also for us to have somebody who's kind of overseeing the entire department. So I think we're moving in the right direction.
Is the mini station working out well?
Phenomenal.
Great.
Yes, it's working out great. And the men and women are really happy. The locker rooms, the facilities, I mean, it's great.
Any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, we've got a motion by Mr. Witt with support by Mr. Badkins to renew the contract, or authorize the supervisor to renew the contract with the addition of the command officer. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Commander, for taking time out of your evening. Next on the agenda, item E3 regarding a marquee subcommittee. Board members, the idea of erecting a changeable copy marquee at Metro Parkway and Crocker has been discussed for many years, about as long as I feel like I've been on this board as a trustee or supervisor. Recently, Trustee Rose and our deputy supervisor did some research which led to some open issues associated with this marquee. I feel like there's a need for us to kind of resolve some of these issues before we bring a proposal back to the board to consider a marquee. So the thought was maybe we might form a subcommittee to research these issues and then bring a proposal back to a future meeting. So I would propose that we form a marquee subcommittee. I would be happy to be a part of that subcommittee because I kind of do feel like I do have some knowledge there, but it's ultimately up to the board to appoint some members to the subcommittee and get it going.
How many were you thinking?
3.
I feel Mr. Tominello is going to probably have to run it because it'll probably tie into cable.
Mhm.
So there's probably some benefit to you serving on it. I don't want to force you on it. I'm just,
I'm
if you're
fine.
going to get it dumped in your lap, and then I would also, I feel like the timeline's probably going to be tight for this part of it. I think Trustee Rose has done a lot of the legwork, so as a third member, I'll support that.
So a motion to form the subcommittee with Mr. Tominello, Mrs. Rose, and myself. All right, motion by Mr. Witt with support by Mr. Badkins. Good? All right, discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you,
Also,
Board.
Supervisor Perkins, if you need any more help with anything, if it runs longer than Paula's term, I'd be more than happy to step in for her, just because it's been a big topic of conversation with EDC for probably the last 8 or 9 years.
So I might.
Whatever I can do to assist, I'm more than happy to help. in that
Sure.
regard.
So considering that and knowing that there's a finite, would there be, anyone interested in making a motion to name, Mr. Olgiati as an alternate? Because only 3 of us can meet, sort of, right? But in the event that, that everything isn't resolved,
I can make that motion.
are you comfortable with that? Okay. Any support for that?
Support.
All right. Discussion. Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next is item E4, regarding a resolution for North River Road. Board members, federal funds for certain road projects are available and granted to SEMCOG, which in turn funds road projects throughout southeastern Michigan. One of the federal funding mechanisms is the Transportation Improvement Program, or TIP. Historically, the Macomb County Department of Roads has worked with the communities in the county to select TIP projects for funding. For example, Jefferson Avenue from Shook Road to St. Clair Shores was funded with TIP funds. Next year, North River Road from I-94 to Bridgeview is scheduled for rehabilitation. Jefferson from South River Road to Metro Parkway is scheduled for rehabilitation in 2026. Each of these projects, as well as several bridge replacements, were funded with these federal funds. The federal funds cover 80% of the cost of these road projects. Macomb County Department of Roads splits the 20% match 50-50 with a township, village, or city. Recently, the Department of Roads has adopted a more formal process for applying for and selecting these projects, starting with the 3-year 2026-2029 cycle. I'm going to pause there and explain. So it's up to, the roads are the counties. And whoever's kind of running that department kind of chooses how they do it. So in the past, they've had a little bit less formal process. And the current management team at Department of Roads said, let's make something a little bit more formal and structured. They're actually going through a phase 1, phase 2 application process. They're scoring projects. A municipality can apply for up to 3 projects. They may say, well, they might get a request for $50 million in projects, and they only have $35 million to fund. So they have to go through a process of choosing which projects they fund. This board approved having Wade Trim prepare our application for this TIP project at the August 26th board meeting. The application does require that the municipality pass a resolution of support, which I've prepared and attached. The resolution obligates us to provide the matching funds. The project that we are applying for is for North River Road from Bridgeview to the very easterly end of the road. If funded, the project would consist of 2 sections. The first section runs from Bridgeview Catfish Channel Bridge. The second section runs from the Catfish Channel Bridge to the very easterly tip of North River Road. The total local match required, based on the engineer's estimate, is $700,000. $258,000 of that match would be for the very residential end of North River Road, which would be from Catfish Channel to the very end. So we're really,
And it's about, I did the math just because I pulled an old SAD, and it's
Yep.
about $3,000 per lot.
I felt like it was even lower than that, but at max. right?
Ballpark.
Yep, absolutely. So we would be getting a pretty significant project at that eastern edge, because not only is the road in very poor condition, but there's essentially almost no drainage. So during the flooding, during the different issues we had, it was difficult for us to say, well, let's plug off and pump, because it's in very poor shape. So realistically, we're looking at $442,000 of township money to get a project that's, gosh, I don't know, I got the engineer's estimate, but it's quite a bit more than that. So we're talking about less than 10% to get a substantial stretch of the road rebuilt. So I do think And whether I like it or not, I'll go back to the same statement I've made, I don't know how many times, road funding in Michigan is broken. The way to fund roads isn't through this. The way to fund roads should be through some process where we all equally pay, the gas tax through something. But the folks in Lansing have not solved that problem, either the Democrats or the Republicans. They both had a majority, they haven't solved road funding. So in the meantime, and make no mistake, the only source of revenue to fix our roads is our pockets. So whether you pay it at the pump, whether you pay it when you get your license tabs, whether we pay it through this, it comes out of our pockets. This is the current system. So if we want 90% of a road to be paid for with our money at a federal and state level and county level, we got to agree to kick in 10%. Every one of our peers is at the trough doing this. So, as much as I dislike this, I think we have no choice but to adopt the resolution of support for this project as presented. And that's what I propose.
Well, what about those residents on the easternmost? Do they have a say in it as far as, because usually when we do an SAD, it's based on 50% or whatever,
Yep.
signing it, so.
It's a great question. So this is the pleasure of this system. This is what's dropped in our lap. People bigger than us, people bigger than us in the sea get to pick the rules. So the rules are, we have to agree to a resolution now for funding. And we may or may not be chosen as one of the projects. So we have to say, yes, we're willing to do it. That's step one. Step two is, if we get it, we have to go to those people.
Okay.
The law does not require us to get 51% of them to sign an agreement. The law says that if 20% of them sign an agreement opposing it, then we need 51% of the people to agree to it. So frankly, if we could entirely rebuild that road and all the drainage on that road, I, as one board member, would be more than willing to move forward with that SAD without 51% of signatures.
I will also add, we met a couple times with this subdivision regarding forming a special assessment. And the price 9 years ago on the average lot was double what we would be asking them to contribute at this point. And that was.
This scope of work is way better than what we talked about.
Correct. That was a flat and black number.
Right.
Okay, so I see the process.
Right.
Always.
So-
We need to say that we love the funding, but we still should go before those residents and get their approval.
We don't have to go before them to get their approval, but if they chose to oppose this, they would have to get 20% of the people saying, we don't want the project.
But there's no downside to being up front and holding a meeting with them and talking
For sure,
about it
for
and
sure.
all that.
This isn't about cramming it down anyone's throat. This is there's certainly a need should we be successful, but I feel like we would be talking about a meeting with, between 50 and 100 property owners.
It's about 88.
Yeah. And saying, listen, you're gonna get the equivalent of about $20,000 worth of work done in your home for less than $3,000. But you can fight it if you want, right?
And at that point, if they say no, anyone that calls for road improvement, you just hang up.
That's right.
I got
Say,
nothing.
I tried. I went
I
to
mean-
bat, right? Worst case, my guess is, if this was funded and there were enough people in this neighborhood that opposed this project, we could probably modify the scope, because the federal aid committee is a group of everybody from Macomb County. Let's just say this resulted in a $4 million grant. We came back and said, you know what, we want to reduce it to $2.8 million. They do make those modifications. But at this point, as a representative of the people who live on that street, I say we should apply for this and we should agree to this. And if it goes to an SAD and they oppose it, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Pardon the pun.
Speaking of bridge,
Yeah.
is that the bridge that's being replaced?
That bridge is being replaced by federal funding. The
Separate-
township is not
separate deal,
participating in
right?
it. Yeah,
When
it's
is that bridge being replaced?
as soon as possible, but between that and the South River Bridge, they've said, I want to say 24 to 36 months. My instinct is next year. But it is a process of funding. There's easements that had to be secured. There's preliminary work that has to be done. Both the North River and South River bridges are so tight that it's really, you've got temporary roads that are, feet away from structures, right? So it's a challenge.
Just as a reminder, the Jefferson Spillway Bridge?
Yep. Pedestrian bridge?
Is the actual bridge replacement, replacing the bridge, right?
Not the vehicle bridge.
They're not replacing that
There,
bridge?
there is no,
They're just adding pedestrian?
the pedestrian bridge is completely independent and separate, and at this point, there is neither a plan or a deadline or date for the
Okay.
vehicle bridge to be replaced, which
Okay.
is why we went to the pedestrian bridge. That project is scheduled for 2025.
You need a motion?
I'm looking for a motion to approve
adopt.
the resolution, to adopt the resolution of support.
Now, I'll make that recommendation.
Is there support? Support. All right, we've got a motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mr. Olgiati to adopt the resolution. Discussion. Hearing none and seeing no public comment, Mr. Witt, will you please take the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Backman?
Yes.
Mr. Olgiati?
Yes.
Mr. Brado?
Yes.
Mrs. Rose?
Yes.
Mr. Tominello?
Yes.
Mr. Witt? Yes. Mr. Burkett?
Yes, thank you, Board. Finally, E5 was an addition to our agenda, which would be to advertise an interview for the Senior Activity Coordinator. Board members, I don't know, about 4 years ago, maybe a little more, plus or minus, I don't remember exactly, we did hire the second person that we had for the Senior Activity Coordinator position. Earlier this year, we moved it from one bargaining unit to another. We have had a stellar senior activity program, along with very strong support for our Parks and Rec Department from Mrs. Iannuzzi. She has made a decision, and we're happy for her that she is her and her husband are going to retire. So that's good news for them, bad news for us. So there's a need to replace that position. So we want to begin that process of advertising and interviewing. Right prior to the meeting, Mr. Tominello, you had mentioned that you had some specific concerns about maybe taking a look at that job description and maybe making some alterations. So I would be looking for a motion to advertise an interview for the Senior Activity Coordinator position with a recommendation to come back before the board. I don't know that the board has to authorize the three of us to have discussions with the union. I think we can certainly do that. But obviously, any modifications to the bargaining agreement, collective bargaining agreement, would come back before this board. But in the interest of transparency, the board should know that we know there's some concerns and maybe some interest in making some modifications to the agreement. Obviously, that requires approval of the union as well as this board. But I don't think we have to have a motion to have a conversation. So unless anyone feels different, I'd be just looking for a motion to advertise an interview for the Senior Activity Coordinator position with a recommendation to come back before the board at a later date.
Make a motion to advertise an interview for the Senior Activity Coordinator position.
Support. Got a motion by Mr. Witt with support by Mr. Brado. Discussion? And if I may, Mr. Tominello, are you comfortable with that?
Yeah, oh, yeah.
Okay, good.
Yep.
All right, discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Last on our agenda is public comments. We'll open up the floor for public comment. We ask that you try to limit those to 5 minutes in length, and they can be about any subject that you wish.
Board members, residents, C. William Bardell, 27-year resident, clean cut, do-gooder boy next door, clean up, fix up, people helping people. I just want to remind everyone, please check out Save Lake St. Clair on Facebook, stay up to date on everything that's going on. I want to make a comment a little bit about the marquee and everything over there. I know years ago, maybe 15, 13, 14 years ago, I was complaining about that 1950s boat over there at the foot of Crocker and Metropolitan Parkway. And like I've always said, that looks like HE double hockey sticks. And I couldn't put my head around it. Maybe it's my OCD or whatever. Why you would put mid-century with 19th century architecture. So I hope when you guys work on this marquee, if you go modern, keep it modern, because I don't know who's got the taste or what the deal is, I think, Mr. Tominello, I think I've seen your house. I think you got a little bit of taste. I hope somebody has some taste so they can develop a little feng shui with it, with the sign and taking that boat out of there, because that looks terrible. That's a mid-century boat, the kind of boats they dump in Detroit all the time. I see it all the time. They dump them, and then they find the tag, and then the police come and they go to their house and find them. That's how they bust them. But please think about it, and please get that boat out of there, whatever you do. I really like the sign that we got there, the 19th century rustic sign, when it's painted with the old English green, or the hunter green and everything, and the gold and everything. I really like that. I've just noticed that it was never lit at the right times. There was no solar lights on it or whatever. Wrong bulbs or something was, the ground lights or the ground fault interrupter in the ground, or the lighting was always wrong on it. But I like the sign, but that boat, when you had the canoe there, to me that was okay. That was rustic. It went with the theme. So I know you want to put a marquee there so you can advertise the events and everything. But, think about the lighting ordinances and so forth, this and that and the other, LED lights, all that sort of thing. What you want to achieve, because if you want to go 21st century, everything around there's got to be 21st century. You can't have 21st century and mid-century. So hopefully one of you three got to know something about feng shui, architecture, decorating, blah, 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 engineering, okay? That way my head doesn't explode when I see this stuff. I know you guys put signs out there for Save the Mannequins and this and that, and being a tradesman for 50 years, something that's not plumb and square, again, makes my head explode. So when you put out those signs for your events and everything, you can level those out a little bit if you want. That would be good. You don't have to use a laser level, but anyway, that's my 2 cents. Thanks for listening. But again, think about it. Have a little bit of taste. Think about the lightings, the LEDs, what you're going to do, what's going to surround the area, the whole feng shui, the whole feeling. Okay, so you don't want to go mid-century with 21st century. Okay, thank you so much for listening. Enjoy your evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, close the floor for public comment. Move back to board comment. Any board comments, board members?
Hey, I think whoever would decide to put that boat in was ahead of their time, because mid-century modern seemed like it's
cool.
been in for a while.
Any other board comments? Hearing none, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Is there support? Support. Get a motion with support to adjourn. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, board members.